Hello everybody, it's vanburman here. Welcome to my review of Melancholy Republic. I've recently just finished the game. Actually, I've just finished the game as we speak, probably about 15 minutes ago. And the game has left me in a state of melancholy, to be totally honest. So, anyway, I've got a few things written down. We'll go through that in this review and just talk about a few different points and plot points and all that sort of stuff. So, to coin a phrase from Melancholy Republic, life is about beginnings and not endings. So we're going to talk about the beginning first, we'll come on to the ending. I just do want to say that in terms of spoilers, I will try to keep them as minimal as possible. I'll just give my thoughts on what's happened and how I feel about how the story progressed, that sort of stuff. So I don't want to spoil it for anyone. It is obviously a heavy story-driven game, and I don't want to interfere with that at all. To be honest, you know, it's made with RPG Maker, which some people will frown upon. To me, I'm always gonna back and plumb for people who have used whatever engine. I think each game needs to be judged on its own merits and what it delivers in of itself. So I'm gonna make that right clear off the bat. So some parts of this game have left me in awe, which, you know, some people might think is a bit suspect, considering, you know, it's obviously not a graphically brilliant game, but some of the set pieces and some of it's just the overall atmosphere that some parts of the game give you, honestly totally left me not quite speechless, but in that same sort of dimension of feeling. And it was a really deep experience at most of the time. Some stuff takes you away from the experience itself, like some story plot holes and that sort of stuff, which I will go on to. I want to give some examples. So there were a few bits in the story that didn't quite marry up. Certain intentions or certain stuff that was developed, given to you at the start, didn't quite marry up as the story progressed. So, you know, I won't, like I say, I want to avoid spoilers, but you're told a certain way that certain characters interact, and then later on you see that that's not particularly the case, and you do question some of the motives when it comes to how the characters are treated within the world. But, you know, it's not a bad thing. It's something that probably that you could go back and rectify. They're not groundbreaking, but it's always been in the back of my mind as to, you know, just the motivations for certain characters and how that's slightly been taken away due to, you know, the stuff we're told beforehand, or, you know, the stuff that we're led to believe beforehand. So there are a few spelling errors, grammatical errors, some words are repeated when they're meant to be other words in there, but for me, you know, a game that is so text heavy and, you know, script based, there are going to be issues like that. They're not massive. There's stuff you can easily overlook. You know, and let's not forget that, you know, get the old PlayStation 1 era games, Final Fantasy 7, Final Fantasy 8, you know, they did have grammatical errors, they did have spelling errors. Obviously, they were localized, so you could say, you know, there's more work there that needs to be done. But, you know, considering this is done by a very small team of a handful of people, you know, I don't see it as a truly negative thing. It's just something I wanted to comment on. There are some nice little nods to other games in there, and you know, there's Final Fantasy 7 nods, Final Fantasy 8 nods, but they're not massive. You know, they don't take away from the story itself. They're quite nice subtle references, and you think, oh, that's quite neat, and you do, you know, notice that throughout the game. So that is nice to see. I always like it when it's done like that, when it's done well, not when obviously a game is just pure reference, you know. So I suppose something like, you know, Duke Nukem or whatever, where it's just, let's try and fit in as many references as possible, and it does grate on you after a while. This story is in of itself and how it works, obviously. I did put that video up on YouTube, so I'll put it in here as well. I guess I do want to talk about one of the inaccuracies. I wasn't sure if I was going to mention it, but I think I probably will, just to emphasize my point. So early on, the main character, Claire, her father, makes it clear that the princess Marianne, or the Armoured Princess, is rarely, he's never seen her. She's not allowed out in public. She's very well protected, obviously, because it's a republic, and having any sort of monarchy around can always lead to rebellions and, civil unrest. And then, Claire Claire meets her, gets to meet her throughout the game. And, it's clear that the princess has been given a lot of freedom throughout her role in her duty within the Republic. Whereas the way it was sold to us is that, she is not to be seen. She's purely there as a political instrument that can be used to keep the peace if need be, or, use it as a symbol. So for her to be given so much free reign and free will, throughout the story, it just seems a tad off as far as I'm concerned with regards to that. So, she has free reign, she goes missing for hours on end, no one cares. Whereas, if a princess were to run away, then everyone would be after her, like I say, because of the potential damage you could do to a republic in that sense. So I've not yet commented specifics on the story because I don't want to necessarily, but one of the points that I do feel as though I need to hammer home, now a lot of people who have seen the Kickstarter or backed the Kickstarter will have known that the music is incredible, and that is true all the way throughout. The music is absolutely spot on. It has a massive impact on the storytelling, and it does enhance that considerably. So if that sort of soundtracks in games something that you're into and something that you feel enriches the story, then this one is going to be for you, because it's right up there. The same way that the original basically PlayStation 1 era and previous had to utilise music to convey their story, this does so in equally as good manner. In fact, it's probably one of the best soundtracks I've ever heard on a game, and that is very high praise indeed. So big congratulations for that one. In terms of the game mechanics, you're basically playing through the story, hence why I don't want to talk about story specifics throughout the video, but and the choices that you make have little to no impact. I'm fairly certain there's very minimal choices, and the way the story progresses, you can just tell that it has virtually no impact on how the story will go. So, from that point of view, you are just playing through the story. But for those people who like that type of gameplay or like that type of experience from a game, you will get that from this. You will get a deep story. It asks a lot of questions. You find yourself asking a lot of questions throughout it. It's not particularly long. I think it's probably around the 6-hour mark playing all the way through. So it's pretty decent. It's $6.99 on Steam. So effectively, you're almost getting an hour's worth of story per pound, I suppose, if you want to look at it from a value proposition. But for $6.99, it's definitely worth picking up. For me, the story is, like I say, a few plot holes here and there, a few bits that you pick up, but overall very solid. It all comes together. It's very poetic as well, which I quite like. It touches on, some sensitive topics, especially considering, our time in the world at the moment. It hits on some of that, about fairness and equality, and with regards to refugees and crisis, and how we view one another, how we help one another. So that's obviously going to be a recurring theme throughout history anyway, but yes, in this particular one, it does hone on that, and it also hones on the whole forgiveness side of things. Combat is not really prevalent throughout at all. It's all done with words, very politically intriguey, so if you're quite into that, then you'll get a decent amount of intellectual stimulation from that. But if you're into classic RPGs, fighting, everyone has to die eventually, I suppose, type of thing, then you won't get that from this, at least not to begin with. Obviously the finale has a big crescendo, which you could obviously go and look it up, the ending, if you do want to. I'm sure it'll be on YouTube somewhere. But yeah, for me, it's something that you have to play through and properly understand the motives. It's yeah, it's, I would probably call it a tragedy in the turn of if it was a book, if it was a genre. You know, it's very, very poetic, very tragic. The name really does do it justice. Like I said at the start of the video, I felt very melancholy. I feel very melancholy right now after playing it, but in a good way. I mean, you know, so many games that don't make you feel emotion, and I definitely really got that one with this. So I apologise for the length of the video. There's a lot of stuff I wanted to talk about, I wanted to try and relay, and I'm very happy with the game, happy to give it a recommendation. You will find the link to it down in the description, and you can go and check it out on the Steam store, see if it's something that you want to pick up. For me, I'd like to see the soundtrack released, if that's possible. I'd definitely be down for, you know, paying whatever, 2 or 3 quid probably to, you know, have that download, have like the really high quality audio files from that. That'd be quite cool. And yeah, going forward, hopefully we'll see more from this group of people if they, you know, feel as though they want to release something else. A quick side note is I noticed some issues that stuff they'd missed in the building of the maps and that sort of stuff, and tiles and passability and that sort of stuff. That happens with RPG Maker. You know, every single little bit has to be fine-tuned, and in a game that's as not open, I suppose more linear, you know, you've got to be very, very careful with the placement of that sort of stuff. So I feel like they did overall did a really good job. And if you guys want a score, I don't, as you know, generally do scores and that type of... I do scores, I suppose. Now, I was really torn. A lot of the time I was thinking, you know, is it an 8? Is it a 9? I decided that I would wait till the ending to decide where about on that scale I put it. So, having played it through and taking all its merits into account, I've decided that it is going to get a 9 out of 10. Highly, highly recommended, and I've just been glad to have the pleasure of playing it, I must say. You know, definitely 6 hours not wasted at all, and it's going to be up there when it comes to, you know, I would have thought, unless, you know, really major, proper, blow me out of the park games come out, it's going to be up there for the top 5 games of the year, I would have thought, for sure. Anyway, I hope you've all enjoyed my rambling, and yes, thanks for watching everybody. I'll see you all on the next one. Goodbye.